Peace be unto you. We're about to commence 7th annual Peace Rally. God bless Sergio and Ted. I see Ted. Where's Sergio? I'm sure he's around during he's up in the mezzanine. Hi, Serge. Let's give praise for Sergio and Ted. Come on. Everyone knows this old hymn. My Father and my God, we come today with great love and respect for those who have gone on, those touched by gang violence, gang gun shooting, the hurts of our time, those who are a bundle of pain now because of what has transpired in the life of their family. We come because you bid us come in our need. I pray today for healing. Help us to heal our village, to heal our youth, our families. Bless, oh God, all those who indeed today, whose cheeks may be moist with tears, heart touched with pain. Let them know that earth has no sorrow, that heaven cannot heal. We pray that this day shall be imprimatur in the soul and minds of your people, that we as remember this time, we too must go on and fight the good fight of faith. Bless all those who shall participate on the program. Grant them, O God, clarity of thought, a signal speech and a spirit that's poignant to give life and hope of this day. As we ask in our Lord's name, thank God. Amen. 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 Please, man, please serve this evening. As pastor of this church, my face is simply wreathed with smile. My hand is extended in love and fellowship for all those who come to share with Strong today the auspices of Ted and Sergio, who two young men I respect greatly. Sergio meeting him a few years ago, and Ted and I have been in the struggle for more than 30 years. It's good seeing you here at Zion today. This is your house. Let's enjoy the program. Let's have a human experience at this time. Mr. Ted Levy.
Thank you, Bishop. And thank you, Zion Cathedral, for hosting today's rally. Your generosity and the generosity of this church has a long history in our community. We appreciate it. Good afternoon. My name is Ted Levy, and I'm the Executive Director of Freeport Pride. This rally is sponsored by Strong Youth. Freeport Pride is one of 17 organizations co-sponsoring today's event. The other co-sponsors include Uniondale Community Council, Bias Health, Breaking the Cycle Church Community Foundation, CBAC of Uniondale, Christ Temple Church of God in Christ, Family and Children's Association, Heaven, Hispanic Civic Association, LICC Street Outreach Project, Nassau County Youth Board, North Shore Talk Guidance Center, Roosevelt, Uniondale Wheaton Seed, and SONIAY. I may have missed one or two organizations. As I have, I apologize, and we'll try to mention it later if we can in the program. I know most of you are familiar with Strong and the organization's founder and executive director, Sergio Argueta. Sergio is a crusader to end youth and gang violence. He's the foremost voice on Long Island to bring the issue of gang and youth violence to the forefront. Sergio and his staff are to be commended for their leadership. They are there to reach out to families victimized by violence. They have developed several innovative programs to provide services to young people, and they have been a constant voice and conscious regarding the issue of youth violence. Today's rally is Strong's 7th annual. We all look forward to the day this rally will no longer be necessary. It's a sad fact that America leads the world in gun violence. In 1996, for example, handguns were used to murder 2 people in New Zealand, 15 people in Japan, 30 in England, 10 in Canada, and 9,390 in the United States. Americans own over 192 million firearms. And American children are nearly 12 times more likely to die from a gun injury than children in 25 other industrial countries combined. If America was the great country it professes to be, American children would not die from gun violence. That would be a true measure of greatness. Homicide is the second leading cause of death for young people aged 10 to 24. We lose 3 Americans a day to the war in Iraq, and 15 Americans between the age of 10 and 24 to murder at home. In 2005, over 750,000 young people were treated in emergency rooms for injuries sustained from violence. A few months back, I saw a story about a 14-year-old girl in Brooklyn who sadly was shot by a stray bullet. At the time, she was playing jump rope outside her apartment. A neighbor who was nearby comforted the young girl and rushed her to safety. The neighbor was interviewed and related how the young girl's first words after the shooting were, "I think I've been shot." It struck me that a 14-year-old girl would so quickly know that she was shot. The idea that she could be shot was just too familiar to her, and that is a sad statement on what we have become. 14-year-old girls still watch cartoons, giggle about boys, and sleep over their friend's house where they talk about their dreams. But somehow today, weapons, gangs, and violence are also part of their lives. How can we continue to ignore the fact that our children are being murdered? How can we give all our attention to the victims of war and terrorism and ignore America's terrorism on its own? How can our leaders be so misguided to ignore our greatest tragedy? Is it because it's not popular? Is it because it disproportionately affects Americans of color? Because it may not be in their backyard? How can all our values be so warped? Caring about others particularly our youth, is not controversial or complex. It's simple. How can we talk about the American dream when our children are being murdered before they can even start to dream, let alone live them? To all of you who are here today, thank you for your commitment, your concern, and your compassion. From the youngest person in this church to the oldest, you are our true community leaders. I couldn't find a nobler, more distinguished group to share a Saturday afternoon. The purpose of today's rally is to bring attention to the problem of youth violence. It is dedicated to all the young people lost to gang and youth violence. Today you will hear from some very interesting people. Some will make you think, some will make you act, and some will make you cry. There is nothing more basic in our culture than our duty and responsibility to protect our children. And nothing is more tragic than when we fail. Gandhi said, we must be the change we wish to see in our world. We cannot have a neighborhood where guns, gangs, and violence are commonplace and blame the young people from those neighborhoods for the paths they follow. Who created a world where our children turn to gangs to belong? Who created a world where children turn to violence to settle disagreements? Who created a world where respect is a misused concept that leads to conflict instead of understanding? We did. We must look at ourselves because the world in which our children must grow is the world we gave them. If we don't teach them, how do they learn? If we don't teach them, then children must make up their own rules. If we don't teach them, then who is to blame if our children follow the wrong direction? If we allow our children to teach themselves, then how can we be upset with the lessons they've learned? It takes a village to raise a child, and we all must serve. As Dr. King said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you can be that servant. To the families of those children we have lost, we have a message for you today. Most of us didn't know your children, your grandchild, your brother, or your sister. But we love them. They were also our children. Can I ask everybody here today to please stand? Those of you who have lost loved ones, please look around. These good people here today share your tears. We know the injustice, the senselessness, and the pain of your loss. We offer you our understanding, our compassion, and our love. All right, please be seated. As we move along with the program, I do want to acknowledge that we have some of our elected officials joining us today, supporting us. We have Legislator Denneberg, Legislator Kovac, and Assemblyman McDonough with us today, and we appreciate that you all joined us. Thank you.
When I was born, my mom said I had the longest eyelashes she ever saw on a baby boy. My dad was so glad to have his first son, he immediately bought me a baseball, football, and christening tuxedo. Now that I'm 10, I love to play t-ball, and that was the cause of my black eye at my first communion. As I started to grow up, I had some typical interests. You know, Nintendo, WWF wrestling, stuff like that. I could play G.I. Joe for hours. I spent lots of time at the rec center, either skating, playing basketball, or swimming. Oh yeah, I'm into karate too.
At an early age, I began working as a model and actor. My first role was in that movie Moonstruck. My big line was, "Hey old man, keep your dogs off my lawn." After I graduated from high school, I enrolled at Nassau Community College. I even made the dean's list there. I was still working as an actor. One time, I landed a part in a movie called Hurricane Streets with Brendan Sexton. Now I go to Stony Brook University. I started on August 28th, and 4 days later, I was back in Freeport with a suitcase of laundry for my mom. I don't think she minds, though. I just recently decided I want to be a doctor. The human body is so amazing. My mom says she's starting to see me as a grown man instead of a young boy. I know she's proud of me, and that makes me proud of myself.
Whenever I come home from school, I try to look up all about my Freeport friends. I have this one friend my mom really doesn't like. I'll call him Keith. Keith jumped out of school at 16, and my mother thinks he's changed for the worse. I tell my mom that Keith didn't have all the opportunities that I had, and she should be more understanding. The other day, I was home visiting my mom, asked me to go to the store for her. Keith beat me, so I went by his crib and picked him up. We stopped by some other friends and headed to the pizza place on Sunrise. I guess my mom was right about Keith. He's in a gang now. When we drove into the parking lot at the pizza place, it was 2:45, and we ran into some dudes from another gang. Two of them pulled out a gun and opened fire on Keith. They hit him and me. Keith was shot in the neck. He crawled across the street, threw up the bullet, and lived. But I took 5 bullets in the head and chest and died. I was 21 years old. The 2 guys who shot us were 16 and 17 and were in high school with my sister. The day before all of this, I had started a job on the TV show Law and Order. I was supposed to go back 2 days later to finish up. I never made it. My mom had to come to the hospital where they told her I was dead. She looked down at me with more pain in her face than anyone should have to bear. She lives with that pain every day. My name was Damien Corrente.
I'm 8 years old, and I have so many good times. I love playing with dolls, and I spend hours watching cartoons. Lots of times, I go with my father to rent movies, and then we watch them together. A few weeks ago, my family went to the Nassau Coliseum to see a Disney show. Boy, did we have fun.
Now that I'm older, I'm 14. I love to listen to music. I like hip-hop, salsa, merengue, and bachata. I learned how to play the violin and love to do so. I'm real close to my mom. After all, I am her only daughter. And my father always tells me, "You have a place in my heart that nobody can touch." I'm lucky my parents love me so much. I love fashion, and I spend lots of time shopping for clothes and stuff. I'm real good with little kids. People tell me I am patient and caring with them. I guess that's why I plan to be a child psychologist.
I live in Florida now. After 8th grade, my mother moved us. But after I finished school that first year in Florida, she let me visit in Freeport. I was thinking about working that summer, but I was so happy to get to see my New York friends. One night, I was sitting out in front of my friend's porch with him and another friend. We was really chilling. School was over, the weather was beautiful, and we were laughing and talking about a lot of things. Then all of a sudden, we hear somebody yell and gunshots ring out. One of my friends got hit in the leg. A bullet hit me in the head and killed me instantly. I was 15 years old. My name was Diana Correa.
Hello, my name is Alvin Brothers Jr. I was born on July 14th, 1992, weighing a preemie 4 pounds and 11 ounces. My mom, Christine Bram, said I was so small that I could fit in her hand, and I looked like a little rat. She was scared to touch me because she thought she would break me. Would you have guessed that I would love food, and 5 months later I would look like this? Chubby little baby, ain't I? I look like a little marshmallow man. But ain't I cute? I guess it's fair to say I was eager to come into this world because my maker had a lot of work for me to do. Don't you want to hug me, squeeze me, kiss me, love me? Yes, I know you do. Look at my cheeks. I am loved.
Hey, you guys, it's me again. Here I am at age 5, and it's my first day of school. Yes, today is a day I'm proud of. When I grow up, I want to be a football player and a basketball player. I'm going to sing, play drums, draw, be a designer, and of course, you know what else I want to do? Get money. My favorite thing to do is make people laugh. Now I'm 12 years old. I love dancing, and I'm good too. I fix radios and clocks. Who knows, maybe one day I'll get paid for that. I love working with my hands. I love being with my family too. We're always having family functions. I swear it's always someone's birthday, anniversary, barbecues. Something's always brewing in our home. Oh, did I mention? I have a job now. Yes, I do. I sell candies and chocolates as well as holiday gifts. I'm already making money. People say they could tell I'm gonna be a hard worker.
What up, everybody? I got to share some bad news with you all. Who would have thought that after all the good times, this would happen to me? 24 days after my 15th birthday, on my way home from the National Night Out Against Crime, after all the laughing, playing, and singing, after all the unfulfilled dreams, the life I had ahead of me was cut short. I was on my way home with my friends. My friends were walking, I was riding my bike right next to them. We were laughing and talking about the fun we had at the park. Before you know it, I can't really even describe what happened. All I know is that some dude pulled up in a car and let off some shots. I wasn't aware that that evening would be the one I took my last breath. I was murdered, gunned down, taken from my family, taken from my friends, robbed of a future, and on August 7th, I died. Please don't cry for me. My family is hurt. They cry. They reminisce about my past, and it hurts to see my little sister cry. But there's one thing I want them to know. I love them, and they haven't lost a grandchild, son, brother, nephew, cousin, whatever. They gained a guardian angel. I know it's sad. I mean, I was only 15.
I'm a typical little kid, always running around, getting into things. I don't know why, but I'm always smiling. Anytime you look at me, I have a big smile on my face. I love to follow around my older brother, Sharad. We do flips and stuff together. I'm kind of acrobatic for a little kid. Oh, I love to ride my bike.
I know how to fix bikes. I can take a bike apart and put it back together again. I'm into sports a lot, basketball and especially football. I'm a big kid now, and I'm real playful. I just like to play around. I'm kind of a leader among my friends. I guess it has to do with my size and my personality. I enjoy music, but not just hip-hop. Any good music is cool to me. I started writing poems. I'm getting into that, and I still love to smile.
A few weeks before the day, I was having a conversation with Sharad. I was telling him I really wanted to focus on school and do well in school. One night, I stayed over at my friend's house, and we decided to sneak out and visit some girls. I was wearing blue that night, and someone thought I was Crip. They didn't like Crips, and that got me shot. I was killed when I was 14 years old. Every March 8th, my birthday, and every September 23rd, the day I was killed, my family visits the cemetery. They read what my brother had put on the stone at the base of my grave. It says, "If tears could build a staircase and memories a lane, I will walk right up to heaven and bring you home again." That makes me smile and cry. My name was Jose White.
Hello. Oh, that's a lot better. How are you? Okay. As I lay there on the ground, all I could do was wish I could go home. All I could do, clean my pen, grab my book bag, and go home. I was trying to get some air into my lungs. I was trying to breathe, but I couldn't. It felt like I was drowning. It felt like I couldn't move. And all of a sudden, this pain that went all over my body, I can explain. I had no idea what had happened to me. You know what happened to me? Someone strong enough, somebody who thought it was a thug, somebody who thought that, having a gun and actually shooting it from a car, get his gun out of the window and start shooting was brave enough. I was just chilling with my friends in Hempstead, right here in Hempstead. Laying on the floor trying to get air, trying to breathe. The only person that came up to my mind was my mom. That person that always told me, I'm gonna do your bed, I'm gonna go clean, go do the dishes. And I was saying, no, I don't wanna do that, I was just young. I didn't know better. The bullet ripped through my both lungs, traveled up, ripped through my spine, leaving me paralyzed for the rest of my life. It only stopped an inch away from my heart. I guess the bullet wasn't strong enough to take my life. I'm the luckiest person you'll ever meet. Yup, I'm the luckiest person you'll ever meet. You know why? Because I'm still breathing. Although I can't walk, I'm very lucky to be here with you guys today. My ability to breathe makes me focus on the fact that I have a mind, I have a soul, and most importantly, I have a big heart. I don't want you to feel bad for me because I don't need anyone's pity. What do I want you to do, and I need, is for you all to help us change this world. It's easy to make excuses and say, you can't make a difference. It's easy to say and get used to the way things are because they will never change. But you're wrong, you can do something about it. Especially those kids that, they look so lost. And if you know better, you'll stop them and say, yo, what's wrong with you? Like, how you doing in school? I can help you with something, Sometimes we don't like those kids. Sometimes we don't like those kids to hang out with our kids. But you know what? Your kids are not going to listen to you. Because when we're little, we don't know better. It's easy to make excuses. But I haven't given up, so you shouldn't make one. I get up every day and I go to school. In the snow, I wheel myself to the bus stop. In the rain, I wheel myself through the puddles. And up and down ramps all day if I have to. Why? Because I'm a survivor. I go to school and spread the message, and I hope kids that feel, I spread the message for those kids that have no hope. I try to motivate young people to make a change for the better. Think about making positive changes into their lives. Why? Because I feel I owe it to them. Because maybe the reason why I'm here, I'm the perfect example so they could see that what really gang life can lead to can actually lead to a wheelchair, a jail, cemetery, those thoughts that shouldn't even be in their minds. I shouldn't have to be in this wheelchair, but I am. So instead of giving up on life, I try harder. Instead of making excuses, I make opportunities. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, I build courage. Yes, there are those hard days when I cry and I feel like giving up. But when I do, I think about my family. I think about that little nephew, the 1-year-old little nephew that I got to meet because I'm alive. My brother, his wife, my stepfather, who had the nerve to give me all his life while I was in the hospital for those whole 4 years. My mother, the most beautiful thing I have, and what gives me the strength to go every day is her. You know why? Because she came to this country thinking that she would give me the best, and yet she works every single day cleaning houses. I'm proud of her. I don't mind saying that to you because, you know, she works hard. So she could put a plate on my table, clothes on my back. And that's why I'm here. I think about how lucky I am to still be here and the fact that I have so much to live. I want to help change the world, but we can't do it by ourselves. We need your help. We need parents to help us spread the word and get involved in our community and our government. We need schools to stop kicking kids out instead of hold our kids tighter. We need legislators to give our kids jobs, give them opportunities. And hope for the future to be a better one than this one, because we're leading nowhere. I remember feeling like I couldn't make a difference, and I realized that my job is to make sure I help young people see the danger of gang life. It's my job to make sure you see gun violence devastates people's lives. But my most important job is to make sure you want to better yourself and you want to better our community. I don't have an excuse, then neither do you. Please help us make our world a stronger one, and the hope comes to everyone when you stop a kid and tell them how you're doing. Don't be scared to talk to them because they're not gonna come to talk to you. So you go for them because you're stronger and because we're standing strong today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am a Nassau County Court judge. I am the person that the victim of a violent shooting has to address if they survived it. I am the person that decides what the fate is of the shooter. Prior to taking my seat, I walked around and I looked at some of the tombstones. And I realized that at least 2 of those tombstones contained the names of the cases that I handled. I think over to my left, Keene Coney's case, where this young lady is sitting in the green. Keene, for those of you who are familiar with helping to end the violence, was a young man who was on the street and got shot in the back of the head and died. To the far back, Anthony Battaglia. Anthony Battaglia is 37 years of age. His only crime was trying to get home to his family and stopping in front of his house and resisting 5 individuals who tried to rob him. Each and every defendant that fires a gun, it takes a second or 2 to pull that trigger, changes a life. It's like putting a pebble in the water, and there's ripple effects. And it doesn't just end when you pull that trigger. It doesn't end because you've taken a life. It doesn't end because you thought that you had the power of God. There are consequences to that action. And I mete out those consequences. One of the cases that you just had, I believe her name was Diana Herrera. A friend of mine handled that case. And I remember when that case broke, and I remember what has our society come to? The young lady cannot visit from Florida and not return to Florida in the same condition. What does a society come to when a young boy goes over to a house in Inwood for a sleepover and has his eye blown out because somebody has decided that they want to break into the house and steal whatever money's in there? And so now this young boy at the age of 10 has to walk with a limp, has his right eye gone, and he sits there in the courtroom beside me and say, Judge, how did this happen to me? And I don't have an answer for him. The only thing I can do is to put that person in jail. Now, jail is different. I used the wrong term. Jail. That's Nassau County Jail. If you commit that type of crime in front of me and you're found guilty of it, I send you to prison. Much different animal. Much different creature. I sit here watching this mayhem, realizing that our society has got to find another way. The only answer should not be me sending somebody away. In the case of Anthony Italian, his shooter, I sent away 7 to life. In the case of King Coney, his shooter, I sent away for 20 years. I remember in the case of King Coney, I remember addressing the defendant. And that was a very sad situation because when you sit in court, you have the victim's family on one side, you have the defendant's family on the other, and you have a lot of court officers trying to keep peace between the two. I remember saying to Mr. Casey, you know, I am tired of sending young men to jail. I am tired of sending young men to jail. But you know what? As long as this violence is going on, I have to. Now, I came today because of the fact that Sergio had asked me a couple of months ago. And I literally had forgotten about it. I was upstate in Berkshire's vacation. And I got a text from my secretary and it said, are you going to the Strong rally? And I thought about it and I said, you know what? I really like the fresh air up here. And then something in the back of my mind said, you know what? You have a higher responsibility than just vacation. And so I'm here today. We sit high in the courtroom. I'm going to borrow a phrase because we talk about the bullet sits high and looks low. Judges do the same thing. We sit above them and we look down on them. And I would hate to have the first address that I make to somebody in this room with me telling them that I'm ending your life as you know it. I'm putting you away. I'm putting you in prison. I'm putting you away. You're going to have to fight for your manhood. I'm putting you where people are going to tell you what to do. I'm putting you where there's no more free will. You have no determination as to how you're going to live your life from this point forward. And so as a judge, I stand before you with this mantra. Don't let me have to see you in court. When I was growing up, when Mr. Brewington was growing up, when Bishop Mackey and all these other old timers were growing up, we would throw down in the street and we'd have fist fights. We never went to this nuclear option. I mean, you lost the fight and that was it. Now, somebody has placed in our children's mind that a 9mm, MAC-10, whatever, is the ultimate solution. I guarantee you that what you're fighting about today, you won't remember should you reach 55. It will not be important to you. Now I'll close with this one story. I can recall growing up in St. Albans, Queens, and I can recall we had a little social group. We called ourselves the Prep Boys. That shows you how hardcore we were. We came with this term, the Prep Boys. And we decided we were going to throw a party one night, and we threw it at this little club. And we were going to make some money, and we were going to spend the money on clothes. And I remember standing at the door, and some guy came by me in an army fatigue jacket, walked in, walked back out, didn't think anything of it. The next thing I knew, the door burst open, and there's another guy with a revolver. And I remember he stuck it straight in my face. And I remember looking at the revolver and seeing the hollow point bullets in the revolver. And I remember time froze at that point. And I remember saying to myself, you know what? My life could end as I know it right now. For whatever reason, the brother at the other end of that revolver didn't pull the trigger. And as a consequence, I'm standing here now talking to you, addressing you as a Nassau County Court judge. You don't know what you've destroyed when you pull that trigger. You don't know what you've taken from us. You could have taken a judge. You could have taken a senator. You could have taken a president. You could have taken a doctor. You don't know what you are destroying when you pull that trigger. And so the topic of my discussion was winners and losers. I can tell you from where I sit, there are no winners. You may have thought that when you pulled the trigger, you proved yourself to be a man. But I'm here to tell you that I can put you in a situation where, quite frankly, for the rest of your life, you will be punked by people in prison. There is no manhood by killing another human being. There is no manhood by watching the devastation that goes on here. When you see a young lady in a wheelchair, when you see this group of family over here crying, it still hurts. So what I'm saying to you is, think about it. Take the time, take a breath, reach 55, and then reflect back on your life. Thank you.
So good to see my friend, the Honorable Gerald Carter, who was just reelected. Thank you to Nassau County and the African American and Hispanic community. My name is Fred Brewington, and a lot of you may not recognize me because I don't have my suit and my tie on. And that's not by accident. I decided to come here dressed down a little bit so that we could talk with each other. Because sometimes when someone comes before you primped, proper, and primed, it becomes a little bit more difficult because they're not talking to you looking like they normally do when they're cleaning out their backyard, Bishop Mackey. So I come to you today because I live in this community. I come to you today because not only am I a civil rights lawyer, I'm an African American man. I come before you today to talk about real stuff, not make-believe stuff. And the real stuff that I want to talk to you about today is not the stuff that you find on a video game. Because sometimes, and some of you play the video games, how many people have played video games in here? Raise your hand. What happens when you've got